The wind, a ceaseless, abrasive sculptor of sand and stone, tacet of arches, of baked earth, and the ghosts of forgotten kings. It tugged at Howard Carter's frayed Sunhat, a familiar antagonist in the silent, shimmering arena of the Valley of the Kings. Below him, the pit, a raw gash in the desert floor, seemed to mock his tenacity, his decade and a half of unyielding search. It was November 1922, and the sun, a brazen eye in the azure sky, beat down with the same merciless indifference it had shown 2 generations of pharaohs. The air, thin and dry, shimmered above the heated rock, distorting the distant forms of his Egyptian workmen into wavering phantoms. Dust fine as flour coated everything: his boots, his canvas trousers, the bristly hairs of his mustache, the very lining of his lungs. Abraith, he'd dream of it, had become, in a sense, an extension of the dust-choked valley. Every morning, he descended into the pit, a man possessed by a single, unshakable conviction that somewhere, beneath the millennia of debris, Tutankhamun lay hidden. Everyone else, it seemed, had given up on the boy king, dismissing him as a minor pharaoh, his tomb long since plundered, if it had ever truly existed in the valley. Yet Carter held fast, a lone sentinel against a tide of doubt. His patron, Lord Carnarvon, a man of cultivated tastes and deep pockets, had reached the limits of both his patience and his fortune. The telegrams from Highclere Castle had grown increasingly terse, the tone shifting from enthusiastic encouragement to thinly veiled exasperation. This was to be the final season. One last throw of the dice, Carter Carnarvon had written, the words echoing in the vast, "Then we must concede defeat." The weight of those words pressed down on Carter. Heavier than any granite sarcophagus, he was acutely aware of the scientific community's skepticism, the subtle sneers of his peers, the whispers of his supposed folly. But something within him, a stubborn, unyielding instinct, refused to surrender. He knew, with a certainty that bordered on the spiritual, that Tutankhamun's tomb was here. He had searched, methodically, tirelessly, through all the known tombs, mapping, excavating, discovering ephemeral traces that hinted at something more profound, something overlooked. He remembered the early years, the thrill of discovery that had propelled him to Egypt, the youthful idealism that had burned so brightly. Now, at 48, the idealism had been tempered by years of painstaking, often fruitless, labor. His hands, once those of a painter, were now calloused, perpetually stained with the earth he loved and cursed in equal measure. His gaze, sharp and penetrating, missed nothing, yet it had failed, thus far, to find the one thing that truly mattered. The workmen, a core team he had trained over many seasons, moved with the rhythmic efficiency of men long accustomed to the sun and the pickaxe. They spoke in a low murmur of Arabic, their bare feet silent on the heated rock, their movements graceful despite the arduous nature of their task. Carter understood their loyalty, their quiet respect. They knew his obsession, and they shared, perhaps in a more pragmatic way, his hope. Gold, to them, was not merely an archaeological marvel, but a tangible reward for their ceaseless toil. He watched a young water boy, barely old enough to carry the heavy amphora, stumble slightly, spilling a few precious drops onto the parched ground. The boy, mortified, scrambled to right the vessel. Carter offered a small, reassuring nod. Patience, he thought. That was the true currency of this place. Patience, and an unwavering belief in the unseen. His mind replayed the clues, the fragments of evidence that had fueled his quest. The humble faience, bearing Tutankhamun's name, found among debris not far from the tomb of Ramesses VI. The caches of embalming materials bearing the young king's seals. The inexplicable void in the historical record. Common wisdom held that Tutankhamun, a pharaoh whose reign was brief and largely overshadowed by the theological upheaval of Akhenaten, his probable father, had been buried in a modest tomb, perhaps even reused by a later monarch. But Carter, meticulously studying the layout of the valley, the patterns of tomb construction, the very geology of the land, believed otherwise. He felt deep in his bones that a hidden, untouched tomb of a pharaoh, however minor, still awaited discovery. The area they were working on now, A small, triangular section near the entrance to Ramesses VI's tomb was the last possible spot. He had cleared almost every inch of the valley floor, leaving only this one, seemingly unpromising, patch. It was directly beneath a line of ancient workmen's huts, structures that Carter had dismissed in previous seasons as too insignificant, too recent, to conceal anything of value. Now, in desperation, he had decided to clear them. It was a long shot, a concession to the relentless pressure from Carnarvon, a final, almost ritualistic act before admitting defeat. The sun began its slow descent, painting the western cliffs in hues of molten gold and deep violet. The air cooled subtly, bringing with it the faint, sweet scent of desert flowers that bloomed after the rare rains. The workmen prepared to leave, gathering their tools, their voices rising slightly as the day's hard labor drew to a close. Carter, his back aching, his eyes gritty, stayed a moment longer, staring into the deepening shadows of the pit. He felt the familiar pang of disappointment, the quiet despair that had become his constant companion. Another day, another handful of earth, another layer of ancient history peeled back, yielding nothing but more dust. He had often imagined the moment of discovery, the thrill, the validation. He had envisioned the glint of gold, the unmistakable seal of an unbroken tomb. But as the seasons bled into one another, the vividness of that dream had faded, replaced by the grim determination to simply continue. He was a man consumed by his purpose. For better or worse, there was no life for him outside this pursuit, no other passion that burned as fiercely. The foreman, a lean, weathered man named Reshaped, approached him respectfully. "Jakawaga Carter. Tomorrow we will clear the last of the huts." Carter nodded, his voice hoarse. "Good, Ahmed. We must be thorough. Every stone, every grain of sand. As you say, Kawaga." Ahmed lingered for a moment, his dark eyes wise with years spent in the valley. Searching Carter's face, he sensed the Kawaga's despondency, the fragile hope that still flickered. He murmured, "God willing, tomorrow." Carter watched Ahmed lead the men away, their silhouettes growing longer, then merging with the encroaching twilight. The valley, so alive with the bustle of the dig, now settled into its profound silence, broken only by the whisper of the wind. He was alone, utterly alone, with his conviction and his crushing doubt. He climbed out of the pit, his steps heavy, and made his way back to the dig house, a modest, sun-baked structure that had been his home for years. The evening meal, likely a simple affair of lentils and flatbread, awaited him. He would eat, review his meticulous notes, and try to sleep, the dust of the Valley of the Kings his constant blanket. The next morning, November 4th, 1922, dawned like any other. The sun rose, a magnificent, fiery orb over the eastern cliffs, casting long shadows across the valley floor. The air was cool and crisp, but promised another day of relentless heat. Carter, as always, was the first to arrive at the site, even before the last stars had faded from the Predon sky. He preferred the quiet, solitary moments, the sense of communion with the ancient spirits of the place. He watched the workmen descend into the pit, their chatter a little louder, a little more energetic than usual. Today was the day they would clear the final remaining workmen's huts, those simple mud brick structures that had housed the ancient artisans who carved the tombs of Ramesses. It was a formality, a final sweep, before he would have to admit defeat to Lord Cut. He stood by the edge of the pit, supervising, his gaze sweeping over the scene, his mind already calculating the logistics of shutting down the excavation, packing up the tools, sending the men home. The bitterness of imminent failure was a palpable taste in his mouth. Then, at precisely 10 a.m., a cry split the morning air. It was a shout, high-pitched and urgent, from one of the water boys, a young lad named Hussein Abdel Rasul, whose job was to clear away loose debris. The boy, normally so quiet and deferential, was pointing frantically at the ground, his face a mixture of fear and excitement. Carter's heart, which had felt like a dead weight for so long, gave a sudden vile lurch. He scrambled down the rough steps into the pit, his boots slipping on the loose scree. He pushed his way through the gathering knot of workmen, his eyes fixed on where the boy was pointing. There, just beneath the mud brick foundations of the oldest hut, almost completely obscured by centuries of detritus, was a step. Not a natural rock formation, but a step. Clearly artificial, clearly ancient. Carter dropped to his knees, heedless of the dust and sharp stones. He ran his hand over the smooth, worn surface. It was limestone, finely cut, unmistakable. His breath hitched in his throat. This was it. After 16 years, after ridicule and despair, after the very brink of surrender, he had found something. A step. A single, solitary step, but a step that led somewhere. He began to dig with his bare hands, frantically, blindly, tearing at the compacted earth and rubble. The workmen, sensing the profound shift in the Kawaga's demeanor, joined him, their fingers scrabbling at the ground. Within minutes, another step emerged, then another, descending steeply into the bedrock. They were undeniably part of a descending stairway, buried deep beneath the foundations of the ancient hut. The exhilaration that surged through Carter was so intense it bordered on pain. He felt lightheaded, dizzy. The sun, which had been his enemy, now seemed to shine with a benevolent light. The air, which had been thick with dust, now tasted clean and sharp. This was not a false lead, not a fleeting hope. This was real. They worked with a feverish intensity, the silence broken only by the scrape of tools and the heavy breathing of the men. Step by step, the stairway revealed itself, 20 feet long, leading down into the darkness. At the bottom, they unearthed a sealed doorway, plastered over and stamped with the unmistakable funerary seals of the royal necropolis. The seals. These were not the common, anonymous marks of a plundered tomb. These were the intact seals of the royal necropolis, bearing the image of Anubis, the jackal god, and the 9 captives, symbolizing the subjugation of Egypt's enemies. This was unprecedented. This was an untouched tomb. Carter stared at the seals, his mind reeling. An almost perfect rectangle of plastered stone, untouched for 3 millennia. He reached out a trembling hand, tracing the outline off the ancient impressions. This was it. This was the tomb. But whose? The seals were generic royal seals, not specific to any one pharaoh. Yet, the location, the depth, the very fact of its intactness screamed of no other pharaoh of his era was known to be missing a proper burial. He ordered the men to rebury the steps and the doorway, covering it carefully with the very rubble they had just cleared. The tomb had waited 3,000 years. It could wait a few more days. His priority now was to send a telegram to Lord Carnarvon, who was still in England. The discovery was too significant, too momentous, to proceed without his patron present. Heva made wonderful discovery in Valley. A magnificent tomb with intact seals, recovered. Same for your arrival. Congratulations. The telegram, terse and understated, was the most momentous message Carter had ever penned. He dispatched it with trembling hands, then returned to the site, where he posted guards to ensure the secrecy and security of the find. He couldn't risk looters, nor the prying eyes of rival archaeologists or journalists. The tomb, for now, belonged only to him, and to Carter. The wait for Carnarvon felt interminable. Days stretched into an eternity. Carter paced the small rooms of his dig house, unable to sleep, barely able to eat. His mind replayed every detail of the discovery, every possible scenario. He consulted his maps, his notes, his vast internal library of Egyptological knowledge. He dreamed of gold, of hieroglyphs, of the face of the young king. Finally, on November 23rd, Lord Carnarvon arrived, accompanied by his daughter, Lady Evelyn Herbert. They were eager, excited, a stark contrast to Carter's tightly wound anticipation. After a brief greeting, Carter led them directly to the site. The Egyptian guards, vigilant throughout the interim, saluted crisply. Carter stood before the hidden steps, his voice hushed, reverent. "My lord, Lady Evelyn, you're about to witness something no human eye has seen in 3,000 years." The workmen uncovered the steps once more, the dust swirling in the crisp morning air. As the first sealed doorway was fully revealed, Lord Carnarvon gasped, his cultivated composure momentarily shattered. "Good God, Carter," he breathed, his eyes wide with a mixture of awe and disbelief. "You've actually done it?" The three of them descended the 16 steps, their footsteps echoing softly in the enclosed space. At the bottom, they stood before the sealed entrance, illuminated by the beam of Carter's lantern. The Anubis seals, so clear and sharp, seemed to pulsate with ancient power. This was no ordinary find. "This, my lord," Carter said, his voice barely a whisper, "is as it was left, unopened, undisturbed." He instructed his men to carefully dismantle the upper portion of the doorway. The plaster, dry and brittle, crumbled under their gentle chisels. As the opening widened, a small passage, choked with rubble, became visible. It was clear that the tomb had been entered and resealed once, perhaps twice, in antiquity, likely by tomb robbers, but then sealed again by royal officials. This was a common scenario in the Valley of the Kings, yet the outer seals remained intact. It hinted at a possibility. The outer chambers might have been plundered, but perhaps, perhaps, the innermost sanctum remained in. They spent the entire day carefully clearing the passage, the air growing thick with dust and the scent of ancient earth. By late afternoon, they reached a second sealed doorway, identical to the first, also bearing the intact seals of the royal necropolis. This was an even more profound moment. If the outer seals had been tampered with, these inner seals had not. They were pristine, perfect. Carter felt a wave of dizziness. He steadied himself against the rough stone wall. This was it. This was the moment. He looked at Carnarvon, whose face was pale with emotion. Lady Evelyn, her eyes sparkling, gripped her father's arm. "My lord," Carter said, his voice husky, "this means we might have an untouched tomb." They decided to open the inner door the following day, November 26th. The suspense was almost unbearable. That night, Carter barely slept, his mind racing, filled with 1,000 possibilities, 1,000 questions. What lay beyond that door? What had the boy king taken with him into the afterlife? The next morning, the small party gathered. Carter, Carnarvon, Lady Evelyn, and Calendar Carnarvon's personal secretary, who was also an avid photographer. The air was charged with anticipation, a palpable hum of excitement that even the stoic Egyptian workmen could not entirely suppress. Carter personally supervised the delicate work of breaching the second doorway. With painstaking care, a small hole was made in the upper left-hand corner. The plaster crumbled, falling silently into the passage. Carter inserted a candle, its flame flickering nervously in the stale air, into the breach. He peered into the darkness, his heart pounding in his chest like a drum. The flame of the candle danced, then steadied, revealing something. He saw shapes, forms, a glint of gold. The air, trapped for 3 millennia, rushed out, carrying with it the faint, sweet scent of decay, of oils and resins, and something else, something indefinable, ancient and sacred. Carnarvon, unable to bear the suspense, whispered, "Can you see anything?" Carter, his voice thick with emotion, utterly overwhelmed, could only manage, "Yes." Wonderful things. The words, simple yet profound, resonated through the ages. He withdrew the candle, his hand shaking. The world, for a moment, seemed to tilt on its axis. He had seen the treasures of a pharaoh, untouched since the day of his burial. They widened the breach, carefully, slowly, until Carter could push his entire head and shoulders through. The scene that unfolded before him was beyond his wildest dreams. The antechamber, illuminated by the stronger beams of their lanterns, was a chaotic riot of gold. Statues, life-sized, of 2 black-lacquered sentinels, armed with golden staffs, stood guard at an inner doorway, their serene faces staring into eternity. Between them, a jumble of furniture, chariots, alabaster vessels, intricately carved chests, and countless other objects, all gleaming with the luster of ancient gold. A golden couch, shaped like the goddess Taweret, dominated one side of the room. A throne, adorned with a scene of Tutankhamun and his queen, glittered in the light. The sheer volume of objects was staggering, overwhelming. The antechamber was packed, almost to the ceiling, a testament to the hurried, yet meticulously prepared, burial of a young king. It was not a grand, sprawling tomb like those of Ramesses, but a compact, exquisite treasure chest. "My God, Carter," Carnarvon murmured, his voice laced with awe. It's unimaginable." Lady Evelyn, usually reserved, gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. The workmen, peering over their shoulders, murmured in their native tongue, their faces a mixture of wonder and reverence. This was not merely an archaeological discovery. It was a revelation, a window into a lost world. Carter, however, felt a different kind of burden. The thrill of discovery quickly gave way to the immense responsibility that now settled upon his shoulders. He was the first modern man to see these wonders, and he was charged with their preservation. The air, though stale, was stable. The treasures, though delicate, had survived. His task now was to ensure they continued to do so, to document them, to understand them, to share them with the world. The immediate priority was to ensure the security of the tomb and to begin the painstaking process of cataloging. It was a task that would consume him for years, a challenge of monumental proportions. Every single object had to be recorded, photographed, drawn, and carefully removed. The sheer number of items, the fragility of some, the complexity of others, meant that haste was out of the question. Cardna, ever the meticulous archaeologist, decided to systematically clear the antechamber first. He forbade anyone from entering the chamber until a proper plan was established. The world would have to wait. The press, already buzzing with rumors, would be held at bay. Secrecy, scientific rigor, and careful preservation were paramount. The days that followed were a blur of intense activity. Carter established a photographic studio at the entrance of the tomb and a rudimentary laboratory. Harry Burton, the renowned photographer from the Metropolitan Museum of Art, arrived and set about the monumental task of documenting every object in situ. Burton's photographs, black and white masterpieces, would become iconic, bringing the discovery to life for millions around the world. Carter, with his artist's eye, also began the laborious process of hand-drawing certain objects, capturing details that even the camera might miss. He enlisted a team of experts: Arthur Mace, a conservator from the Metropolitan Museum, and Alfred Lucas, an analytical chemist from the Department of Antiquities, were brought in to assist with the delicate task of preservation and removal. The antechamber was a veritable maze of objects, stacked haphazardly, testament to the hasty burial. Golden shrines, disassembled chariots, ornate chests, alabaster jars, gaming boards, and countless other items. Each object told a story. Each one offered a glimpse into the life and death of the young pharaoh. Kata dedicated himself completely to the work. He rose before dawn, often returning to the dig house long after the sun had set. Ivareliate, his mind consumed by the sheer volume of tasks. He meticulously cataloged each item, assigning it a number, noting its position, condition, and suspected purpose. The dust, which had once been a symbol of despair, now became a fine layer of protective history. One particular object captured his attention early on: a small, exquisitely crafted wooden chest, decorated with vivid scenes of hunting and warfare. When carefully opened, it revealed an array of small, personal items, including a pair of linen gloves, a child's chair, and several papyrus scrolls. These were the intimate connections, the human touches that brought the young king to life. Aste slowly, painstakingly emptied the antechamber. The mystery of the tomb deepened. There were clear signs of ancient robbery. Objects had been ransacked, repacked carelessly, but the thieves had been interrupted, or perhaps, in their haste, had overlooked the greatest treasures. The seals on the second doorway, the one guarded by the two sentinels, remained untouched. This was the key. The sheer scale of the operation was staggering. The heat was relentless. The air inside the tomb, though stable, was heavy. The fragilator of the artifacts meant that every movement had to be precise, deliberate. Mason Lucas worked tirelessly, consolidating fragile wood, cleaning delicate fabrics, ensuring that each object could be safely removed from the tomb and transported to the laboratory for further preservation. Lord Carnarvon, while providing invaluable financial and logistical support, often found himself sidelined by Carter's relentless focus. He watched, fascinated, as the treasures emerged. But the hands-on work was Carter's domain. The world, meanwhile, was captivated. News of the discovery, initially kept under wraps, inevitably leaked. The press descended upon Luxor, a swarm of journalists eager for exclusive stories, sensational headlines. Carter, a man of quiet temperament, found the media frenzy an unwelcome intrusion. He was an archaeologist, a scholar, not a showman. He begrudged every moment spent dealing with reporters, every photograph taken, every interview given. His focus was solely on the tomb, on the meticulous, scientific excavation that was his life's work. Despite the challenges, the work progressed. Months passed, then a year. The antechamber was eventually cleared, revealing the full extent of the two sentinel statues guarding the entrance to the burial chamber. Beyond them lay the prize. On February 17, 1923, after weeks of careful planning and preparation, Carter and the core team stood before the final sealed doorway. The air was thick, with a new kind of anticipation. This was the moment. This was what they had worked for, dreamt of, for so long. Carter raised his hand, and the workmen, with the utmost care, began to dismantle the mud brick wall. As the bricks came away, a solid wall of pure gold seemed to emerge from the darkness. It was massive, overwhelming, filling the entire space. This was not merely a doorway. This was the side of an enormous, gilded srine almost scampoli, filling the burial chamber, leaving only a narrow passage around its perimeter. It was so large that it had to be dismantled in sections. This suggested that the shrine had been built inside the tomb, around the sarcophagus, a testament to the hurried nature of the burial, or perhaps a deliberate design choice to prevent easy access. The team worked for days, removing sections of the shrine, piece by painstaking piece, revealing more of the burial chamber. The entire room was dominated by this colossal structure, glistening with gold, inlaid with blue faience tiles, and carved with scenes of gods and pharaohs. Inside the first, massive shrine, they found a second, smaller one, also gilded and intricately decorated. And within that, a third, then a fourth. It was a Russian doll of sacred protection, each shrine enclosing the next, a testament to the immense care taken to safeguard the young king's final resting place. The sense of reverence, of sacred space, grew with each layer they unveiled. Finally, after weeks of careful dismantling, they reached the innermost shrine. As the last section was removed, the polished granite sarcophagus of Tutankhamun was revealed. It was a magnificent creation, carved from a single block of rose-colored quartzite, adorned with golden figures of goddesses, their wings outstretched in eternal protection. Carter stood before it, his mind reeling. Here, after 3 millennia, lay the pharaoh himself. This was the ultimate prize, the culmination of his life's work. The sarcophagus was sealed, its heavy lid still in place. The opening of the sarcophagus was another meticulously planned event. It was a heavy, monumental task, with the help of specially constructed lifting equipment. The massive granite lid was slowly, agonizingly raised. It revealed not the mummy, but another coffin. This one carved from gilded wood, shaped in the likeness of the young king. This process repeated itself. Inside the gilded wooden coffin was another, also of gilded wood, intricately decorated with scenes of the afterlife. The air, as each layer was opened, grew thick with the heavy, sweet scent of frankincense and other embalming resins, a smell that had been preserved for 3,000 years. And then, the final coffin. It was a breathtaking sight, a solid gold coffin, weighing hundreds of pounds, gleaming with an otherworldly luster. It was the most magnificent piece of funerary art Carter had ever seen, a masterpiece of ancient Egyptian craftsmanship. On October 28, 1925, Carter and his team finally raised the lid of the golden coffin. Inside, amidst layers of linen, shrouds, and precious jewels, lay the mummy of Tutankhamun, and upon its face, perhaps the most iconic image of all, the golden burial mask. It was more beautiful, more exquisitely crafted than anything Carter could have imagined. Solid gold, inlaid with lapis lazuli, quartz, obsidian, and colored glass, depicting the idealized features of the young pharaoh, serene and majestic. The mask alone was a priceless work of art, a symbol of ancient Egypt's enduring power and mystery. Carter felt a profound sense of awe, tempered by the solemnity of the moment. He was staring into the face of a king, a boy king, who had died more than 3 millennia ago. The mask seemed to gaze back, an eternal witness to history. The mummy itself was a sight of both scientific interest and poignant tragedy. It was tightly bound, the features of the young man somewhat obscured by the elaborate bandages and resins. The body was adorned with a staggering array of jewelry and amulets, each placed with specific ritualistic significance. Bracelets, rings, necklaces, intricate collars. Every inch seemed to speak of wealth and belief in the afterlife. The challenge now was to extract the mummy from its golden prison. The resins used in the embalming process had solidified over the centuries, cementing the body and its adornments to the bottom of the solid gold coffin. It was a delicate, heartbreaking task. Carter, with his team of experts, worked painstakingly for months, carefully chipping away at the hardened resin, using heated knives, applying solvents, all in an effort to preserve the fragile remains and the treasures that lay beneath the wrappings. He recorded every detail, every piece of jewelry, every amulet, every layer of linen. The sheer scale of the funerary offerings was unprecedented. Tutankhamun, despite his brief reign, had been buried with the opulence befitting a king, ensuring his successful journey into the afterlife. Amidst the scientific triumph, a shadow began to creep over the discovery. The whispers of the curse of the pharaohs. Lord Carnarvon, already weakened by a pre-existing medical condition, suffered an infected mosquito bite and died on April 5th, 1923, just months after the tomb's opening. His death, followed by a series of other seemingly unrelated misfortunes and deaths among those associated with the tomb, fueled a sensational media frenzy. The press, ever eager for a dramatic story, latched onto the idea of a supernatural retribution for disturbing the pharaoh's rest. Carter, a man of science, dismissed it as nonsense, a trivial distraction from the profound archaeological significance of the find. He understood the public's fascination with the mystical, but he refused to let it overshadow the meticulous work of excavation and preservation. "The tomb is not cursed," he declared, his voice firm, "only misunderstood." Yet, the stories persisted, weaving themselves into the fabric of the discovery, adding another layer of mystique to the already legendary find. It did not deter Carter, but it was a constant, frustrating annoyance. The work continued, relentless and demanding. It would take nearly 10 years to fully clear the tomb and meticulously catalog all its contents. The sheer volume of artifacts, more than 5,000 individual items, was astronomical. Each one had to be carefully removed, conserved, and transported to the Egyptian Museum in Cairo. Carter's dedication was absolute. He oversaw every aspect, from the removal of the smallest amulet to the transportation of the massive golden shrines. He fought tirelessly against bureaucracy, against the relentless press, against the extreme conditions of the desert. He was a man possessed, driven by the desire to honor the young king and to present his legacy to the world with the utmost scientific integrity. The discovery of Tutankhamun's tomb transformed Egyptology. It provided an unparalleled insight into the life, death, and beliefs of an ancient Egyptian pharaoh, revealing the exquisite artistry and sophisticated craftsmanship of the new kingdom. It changed public perception, turning the academic pursuit of archaeology into a global phenomenon, captivating imaginations across continents. As the years passed, the valley slowly returned to its quiet rhythms. The scaffolding was removed, the pathways cleared. The tomb, now emptied of its treasures, became a solemn monument, preserving the memory of the young king and the man who had found him. Carter, his health somewhat broken by the years of relentless work and stress, continued to write his reports, though he never fully completed the comprehensive scientific publication he had envisioned. His life after Tutankhamun was, in many ways, he had scaled the Everest of his profession, and there was nowhere else to go. He retired from active excavation, living a quieter life, though his mind remained filled with the images of gold and the face of the Boy King. He died in 1939 at the age of 64. A private man to the end, but forever immortalized as the man who had opened the tomb of The treasures of Tutankhamun, now housed in the Egyptian Museum in Cairo, stand as a testament to that extraordinary moment in November 1922. The golden mask, the elaborate chariots, the exquisite jewelry, the gilded shrines, they continue to draw millions, whispering tales of a forgotten world, of a young king, and of the unwavering determination of a single archaeologist. The wonderful things that Carter saw that day transcended mere archaeological finds. They became a bridge between millennia, connecting the present with the profound mystery and enduring legacy of ancient Egypt. The Boy King, once lost to history, had been found, and through him, the world was given a magnificent gift, a glimpse into the heart of a civilization that had mastered the art of eternity.